One of our favorite places to visit is the Outer Banks of North Carolina. These barrier islands along the coast are a fun destination with great beaches, calm harbors, and scenic marshlands, along with cool historic sites and some fun attractions. But there's another island we had never been to named Portsmouth Island. Established in 1753, Portsmouth Island became a major coastal shipping center with 685 villagers and over 100 enslaved people living on the island at its height in 1860. In 1971, the final residents of the island moved to the mainland, leaving behind the remnants of a once thriving town. In this video, Jack boards a boat to visit Portsmouth Island for the first time and to share its story with us. I sat this one out, as I do not do well on boats due to motion sickness issues.
I took a road trip to Hatteras Island, and from there took the ferry to Ocracoke. I met up with Captain Austin from Portsmouth Island Boat Tours on the Community Square docks in Ocracoke. I also met a duck out on the docks. And just like that, I'm on a boat. The only way to get to Portsmouth Island is by boat. There are no bridges like connect several of the islands in the Outer Banks. There are no ferries to Portsmouth like there are to Ocracoke. But there are a couple of private boat tour companies that will take you over from Ocracoke for a fee. Of course, you can also take your own boat if you have one, or rent a boat to take yourself to the island. Portsmouth Island is a popular place for shelling, which is what most of the people on my boat were interested in. But I was here for one reason: to explore the ghost town of the Outer Banks. Initially, I did run into a handful of other people in the abandoned village, but about an hour or so into my 3.5-hour self-guided tour, they left and I ended up all alone for the rest of my explorations, the only person wandering around the remnants of this village. This island is part of the Cape Lookout National Seashore, made up of uninhabited islands south of the Outer Banks. Portsmouth Island is the northernmost island in the Cape Lookout National Seashore. All of this land is maintained by the National Park Service. I started exploring at the Visitor Center, located in the Theodore and Annie Salter House, built around 1900. Annie served at the post office as the island's postmistress. Theo managed the general store. Today, their home features some informational signage about the history of life on Portsmouth Island. The island's peak years, though, were in the mid-1800s, long before this home was ever built. It was that time period where more than 1,400 ships passed through Ocracoke Inlet each year. The island's residents were largely employed in the business of lightering. See, cargo ships were too heavy to enter the shallow waters of the Ocracoke Inlet. So the larger cargo ships would transfer cargo to the lighter ships of Portsmouth Island, who would carry the goods across the shallow sound to mainland ports. The process was reversed for ships leaving with goods to ship elsewhere. Portsmouth Island's important role in the shipping business died off by the end of the 1800s, when storms had opened up better shipping routes up in more northerly parts of the Outer Banks, and when more goods began to be shipped via railroad. Nearby is the village's post office, which was a lifeline to the outside world for the town's residents. Postmistress Annie Salter would call out the mail each day at 4 p.m. here. The building was also the general store that was run by her husband Theo. The post office window was near the front of the store. Annie sold stamps and issued money orders from behind that window. Eventually, her daughter took over as postmistress until the post office closed permanently in 1959. Here is one of a couple cemeteries I encountered as I explored. Only 5 buildings were open for touring during my visit. The Styron and Bragg House of 1928 was not one of them. The family that lived here ran a hunting business where they would guide visiting hunters out onto the marshes. That brings us to the one-room schoolhouse. This was built in 1927 after the island's previous school building was damaged by high winds. A walk through the school provided a glimpse of the student desks and the teacher's desk, along with some reproductions of books that were used in the schoolhouse. One of the oldest homes still standing in the village is the Washington Roberts home. It was built around 1850. Here is the Methodist Church. The island had both a Methodist and a Baptist church, and they were both destroyed in a hurricane in 1913. This Methodist church was rebuilt in 1915. The Baptist church was never rebuilt. I stopped and ate my bag lunch, sitting in the pews of the church, imagining what the services were like back when this was a hub of spiritual and social activity on the island. The piano, organ, and pulpit are all still left in the sanctuary. The church is still used for meetings every other year when there's a gathering of Portsmouth Island descendants. As you exit, you can pause to give the church bell a ring. This was my third time trying to go to Portsmouth Island. I traveled to Ocracoke a couple years ago, and my Portsmouth Island tour got rained out. I did the same 1 year ago, and I thought the fact that I had called and told the company I was coming reserved me a spot on the boat. I was told to be at the dock by 9 a.m., but the boat had already left by the time I arrived at 8:53. When I called to ask where they were, I was told the boat had already left because it was full and couldn't take anyone else anyway. So they departed early. So this year, I checked the weather, called the boat tour company, told them I was coming on the tour, and arrived on the dock more than 30 minutes before I was told to. And I finally got a seat on the boat.
The final building Jack toured should look familiar to those of you who have watched our channel for a long time. It is the island's life-saving station. A precursor to the Coast Guard, the U.S. Life-Saving Service had stations up and down the coast. The buildings are known for their lookout tower, allowing the surfmen who worked here to be on the lookout at night for ships in distress. Other surfmen would walk along the coast at night, also looking for sailors in danger. The Outer Banks has been nicknamed the Graveyard of the Atlantic, as it is estimated that there have been over 2,000 shipwrecks in the waters around the islands. The shoals, or sand dunes just below the surface of the water that can't be seen, especially in the dark, caused many to lose their ships and their lives in the water here. It was the job of the life-saving station surfmen to rescue such people in distress. After the shipping business left Portsmouth Island in the latter half of the 1800s, the town became a fishing village and the population began decreasing. By 1971, only 3 people, 1 man and 2 women, all senior citizens, were left living on the island. When the man died, the women left and moved to the mainland to be near family. More than a dozen buildings remain on the island, some with their furniture still in them, frozen in time. Jack, what did you think of this experience?
I really enjoyed exploring the remains of this abandoned town. I'm very glad I got to go after plans had fallen through the last 2 years. Having said that, it was very hot, it was over 80 degrees, and there was no air conditioning in the buildings you could tour. But worse, there were swarms of large biting flies on the island. Even though I was warned about bugs and brought bug spray, many of these bugs just ignored my bug spray. I hear later in the year mosquitoes are really bad on the island as well. As cool as the experience was, I was ready to leave by the time the boat returned to pick me up.
A round-trip boat ride to tour the island is $25 per person in cash, and a tip for the boat captain is customary. Guests are warned to bring bug spray, sunscreen, plenty of water, and food with them on their tour of the island. Click the links at the end of this video to learn about the U.S. Life-Saving Service, or to see a playlist of all the things we love about the Outer Banks. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to this channel and click the notification bell so we can see you the next time we're traveling through.